Hey, you ever noticed that there's a lot of bird Pokemon? That's because birds are the most common type of animal on the planet. Chickens alone outnumber people 4 to 1, meaning that statistically, every barbershop quartet has at least one member that's secretly a chicken, though it's impossible to tell which one. Pokemon Scarlet has 17 bird Pokemon, 16 if you forget about Delibird, which I did. So let's see if I can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke with nothing but birds. Hey, look, that's me in the dopey hat. Sadly, I am not a bird. I blame my parents, but my starter, Quaxley, is. He's named after my Patreon member Luna's lovely cherry-cheeked parakeet, Elvis.
Bird fact number 1.
Did you know that there was a parakeet in the 1930s that was able to almost perfectly mimic Elvis Presley's voice? Sadly, he was killed in World War II, but for his role in entertaining the troops, he earned a posthumous Presidential Medal of Honor. And I can think of no one better to honor that legacy than our very own Quaxley.
Bird fact number 2.
Birds of a feather stick together, so we need more birds or else Elvis will die. Introducing Bo the Fletchling, named after Dylan's green-cheeked parakeet, who apparently screeches every time an Amazon truck drives by. Don't worry, buddy, there's no giant cars in this game. Oh wait, god damn it.
Bird fact number 3.
Not all birds can fly, for example, ducks, and neither can Pauline the Psyduck, named after Camille's extremely blurry chicken. What is this? The Blair Witch Project but for chickens? Alright, honestly, I would watch that.
Bird fact number 4.
You might not have noticed because Camille took this picture during an earthquake, but there's actually 2 chickens here. And the second one, Colette, lends her name to our Starly. So now we got 4 birds, enough to infiltrate a quartet of barbershop quartets, though it takes only our newest member to slice through Katie's bugs and her teddy bear like a handful of perfectly cooked fish fillets. New bird who dis? Oh, it's Minion the Rookidee, named after Sora's western screech owl. The Stony Cliff Titan is no match for Pauline if you pretend that critical hits don't exist, which I mean they basically don't. Like the odds of getting a critical hit, especially in new generations, is pretty low. Aw, good job, Pauline, your first kill! Just look how happy she is. Anywho, pretending that critical hits don't exist is also my strategy against Brassius, since his Grass Terra Sudowoodo can hit every single one of my Pokemon for super effective damage.
Bird fact number 5.
Birds do not respond well to getting hit by rocks. They're kinda the Giles Corey of the animal kingdom in that regard. By systematically switching to Colette for repeated intimidates, we can drop Sudowoodo's attack such that he's not doing much damage. Pauline's Tail Whip drops his defense, and Bo even manages to burn him with his Flame Body abilities, so the second gym badge is a collective victory for Team Bird. And as tight-knit as our squad may be, there's always room in the flock for another friend. So Zoro the Flittle, named after this little guy, joins the team.
Bird fact number 6.
Flittle sucks. Are you seeing this shit? We're stuck with these stats until level 35? Well, our bench isn't gonna warm itself. And besides, what Zoro lacks in stats, ability, level up moveset, and justification for existence, he makes up for with an adorable design. And if you're a fan of cute little critters like Flittle, you'll love the sponsor of this video, Portal Fantasy, a creature collective adventure RPG. In Portal Fantasy, you'll explore the beautifully designed Pylee Kingdom, where you'll encounter creatures called Porbles. If you don't pick Groovy, we can't be friends. With Porbles by your side, you'll engage in deceptively challenging turn-based combat while uncovering the deep and dark history of your world. My favorite thing about Portal Fantasy, other than getting to discover new and wonderfully animated creatures, is that the game is so sassy and funny. Dialogue and informational text consistently tease the standard tropes of RPG adventure gaming in a way that makes the experience of playing Portal Fantasy unique and fresh. Oh shit, are those birds?
Bird fact number 7.
You haven't fully experienced life until you've run through a pigeon-filled plaza. Portal Fantasy has an incredible team behind it, boasting decades of experience working with major entertainment studios. And all aspects of game development, from the art to the banger of a soundtrack, were created in-house for a completely novel experience. Portal Fantasy launches on Steam in March, but until then, you can add the game to your wish list and try out the demo version for free by using the link in the description down below. And the team really wants to hear your thoughts, so get in on the ground level and check out everything this wonderful game has to offer. Thanks so much to Portal Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Next is the Totem Bombardier, who's kinda scary since she too has a rock-type move, and unlike most totems, you can't heal between the two mandatory battles. But with Team Bird's patented surefire strategy of pretending that all my Pokemon have shell armor, we eke out a deathless victory. And then we do the same thing to Italy's finest disc jockey, which means, that's right, it's time for
More birds!
First up, an Oricorio named Blanca after a white dove one of my Twitch chatters saw in a parking lot. Look, there's not many bird owners in my Patreon, so in order to get enough nicknames, I had to broaden the scope of inclusion to anyone who's ever seen a bird. Bitey the Wattrel and Hissy Face the Flamigo are named after two mute swans submitted by Hannah.
Bird fact number 8.
Swans don't speak, so calling them mute is redundant and a little mean, Hannah. Our final bird here is Daniel the Hawlucha, named after an obese pigeon that Chris saw at a Beyblade tournament in Toronto, which is a thing that apparently exists. I mean, I thought Toronto was just something Canadians made up, like Moose or Universal Healthcare. The next gym leader is Iono, and with her electric type, she's our first true challenge.
Bird fact number 9.
Birds do not like electricity because they are Amish, so Iono can hit almost all of my Pokemon for super effective damage. The exceptions are Zoro the Flittle, ass, and Bitey the Wattrel, who could have had the ability Volt Absorb, but instead has wind power. Still, she's definitely not Flittle levels of useless, though winning this fight is gonna require taking some risks. Iono leads with a Wattrel of her own, and I lead with whatever the hell this is. We win the matchup easily enough, so Bellibolt comes in next, and I switch to Colette for an Intimidate so that our foe's sparks do less damage. Then it's off to Blanca with the hopes of using a Feather Dance to lower Bellibolt's attack even more, but sadly, fate has other plans, because Blanca comes in on a critical hit spark that also paralyzes. If I stay in, she's dead. So instead, I make the hard switch to Daniel, whose Limber ability means that he can't get paralyzed. With leftovers and Detect, he stays pretty healthy as a few Feather Dances further drop Bellibolt's attack. After a few, Daniel goes for a Dig, the only way my team can hit Iono's Pokemon for super effective damage. But when we surface on the following turn, it's revealed that the damage from a single Dig is significantly less than 50%, and thanks to Kermit's Electromorphosis ability, Spark now does a solid chunk of damage even with the repeated attack drops. Since Blanca's at death's door, Daniel is my only Feather Dancer, and I still need a bit of HP to deal with Iono's Luxio that'll come out next. So I decide that my best bet is to U-turn out with Daniel, doing enough damage that a second Dig should now get the kill. Unfortunately, this means that Blanca has to go down, cursed by bad RNG into being nothing more than a sacrificial pawn to get Daniel back in safely. She never even got off a single attack, but hopefully now, she's up in heaven dancing with angels. Daniel does indeed come back in, and so our second Dig just misses out on the KO. That sucks, because not only does Daniel have to tank another Spark, it also means that Blanca died for nothing. With another Dig, we finally get the KO, bringing in Luxio third. Daniel can get off a single Feather Dance, but then I gotta U-turn out and bring in Hissy Face. She tanks the Nerf Sparks a bit better than Daniel, and Double Kick does great damage. Another one will easily get the KO, but Iono still has her Terastalizing Mismagius with Charge Beam. And in order to stand a chance against her, I need Bitey to be out on the field. So I make the switch, and Luxio immediately lands a nasty critical hit. Now thankfully, Bitey knows Roost, and by dropping our Flying typing when we heal, Luxio's subsequent critical hitless Sparks do significantly less damage, such that I can not only get back to nearly full HP, but I can also set up an agility to ensure that Bitey outspeeds Mismagius before finally taking the KO. So as Iono goes for a Terastalization, I can hit her with an Eerie Impulse to drop her special attack before she fires off a Hex. Unfortunately, even if I ignore the risk of critical hits, surely she won't get a third one. This is a pretty suboptimal strategy since I'm already almost out of Roost PP, which along with the PP of other healing moves has been drastically reduced in Generation 9. Good call, honestly, it makes fights like this way harder. Miss Magius also has Confuse Ray and can increase her special attack with Charge Beam 70% of the time. This matchup is brutal. I mean, Colette with an Assault Vest eats attacks reasonably well after a few eerie impulses, but all she can do is retaliate with quick attacks for bits of damage. And so, it isn't long until she too joins Blanca up in the never-ending sky. But on her last 2 turns alive, Colette did manage to break through confusion twice in a row and deal just enough damage for Hissy Face to come in and finish off Iono's murderous ace. Thanks to Colette's incredible performance and selfless sacrifice, we've defeated Iono and earned what is almost certainly the hardest gym badge of the run. And though our victory may be tinged with the bitter loss of 2 teammates, at the very least, Bitey is rewarded for her hard work by evolving into Kilowattrel. Great camera angle there. Perfect game. No notes. You know, all that high-stakes battling has really distracted me from the true purpose of this video. There hasn't been a bird fact in minutes, which simply wouldn't do.
Bird fact number 10.
When a member of the bird community falls, it's customary for the others in the flock to feed off the energy of their lifeless corpse to enact unfettered vengeance. So perhaps it's unsurprising that Pouline, devastated by the loss of her blurry sister, takes out Mella's Cheesemobile, Hissy Face low kicks the Titan Earthworm into next week, and Bitey quickly zaps Kofu's water types with her newfound power. Before facing off against the next star boss Atticus, I encounter a green Squawkabilly, the perfect candidate to be named after one of the 2 parrots that Beyblade Chris saw in a bathroom once. Now, Toile's got the ability Hustle instead of Intimidate, which I was hoping would help against Atticus's dangerous Starmobile. This is a hard fight since the level cap is just low enough that a vast majority of my Pokemon are not fully evolved. Bitey, an early candidate for MVB, can take out Skuntank with a combination of Thunderbolt and Volt Switch. This also lets me bring Toile in for free to face off against Muck, whose moveset of Sludge Bomb and Mud Slap means I can hit him with a Torment and then use Fly to avoid any damage after the initial Sludge Wave. Against the Revavroom, I can pivot through Bitey on a resisted Iron Head and use Volt Switch for another chunk of damage to bring Daniel in on an Assurance. A single dig then takes the KO, leaving the rest of my team to deal with the Starmobile. Once again, it requires an assault from damn near every able-bodied member of the team, and I have to play fast and loose with risking critical hits in order to maintain pressure. Hissy Face does a lot of heavy lifting now that he's learned Roost, and then Elvis, always eager for the kill, closes things out with a few final hits.
Bird fact number 11.
Did you know that ducks kill more human beings than any other type of bird? It's called being a silly goose for a reason. There's nothing silly about ducks. Hey, look at what time it is. It's
More birds o'clock.
But these aren't just any birds. These are the
Final birds of the run.
Wingull is named after Beyblade Chris's second bathroom parrot, and Murkrow is named after a peacock that he also submitted. Oh, to spend a day in Beyblade Chris's globe-trotting avian-filled life. Rufflet, Swablu, and Bombardier are all named after these doves submitted by one of my mods. Again, none of them had names, so I had to improvise. With that though, the flock's complete, and it's time for some evolutions.
Bird fact number 12.
All birds are in a near constant state of evolution. Each generation of bird gets smarter and stronger than the one before. One scientist even estimates that birds will surpass the intelligence of the average YouTube commenter by 2056 and the intelligence of the average adult by 2083. This next chunk of the game is the strongest case for Pokemon is just glorified rock, paper, scissors that I have ever seen, and is therefore best summarized as a rapid montage of murder. Daniel kills Larry's normal type. Wait a minute, is the Dunsparce a bird? Anyways, Namelis kills Rhyme's ghost types and Tulip psychic types. Sync bests the Quaking Earth Titan. I crush the high octane final gym challenge. Elvis bodies Grusha's ice types, and Minion ruins OP's car insurance premium. So there's just a few more battles before the end game, and normally the final star boss Eerie and her fighting types are one of the harder challenges in the game. But most playthroughs don't have an all-star roster of winged warriors.
Bird fact number 13.
As anyone who's ever tried to punch a bird can attest, it's basically impossible. So my team has the upper hand here. Metaphorically, of course.
Bird fact number 14.
Birds don't have hands. They can't use iTunes. I decide to let Bo rack up some kills against Eerie with itemless acrobatics, which are easily enough to one-shot both Toxicroak and Passimian. Oh man, that wasn't even close to getting the kill. Turns out Passimian is pretty bulky.
Bird fact number 15.
Monkeys can go straight to hell. I bring in Elvis to get the revenge kill with an acrobatics, baiting in Annihilate third, so it's time for Zoro to make his debut. Now that he's fully evolved, he can eat the baited close combat that drops our foe's defenses, such that on the following turn, we can easily take the KO with the Lumina Crab. What's happening? Wait, are you kidding me? How do we get outsped here? I mean, sure, Zoro has a minus speed nature, but still. Look, I'll take the blame for Bo's death. That was a bad miscalculation, but Zoro's death seems like natural selection more than anything else. Well, Hissy Face can come in and take the kill against Annihilate with a Brave Bird. She also KOs Lucario with a double kick, so all that remains is the final Starmobile, which we fortunately managed to best before it gets too out of control. Nevertheless, it's a victory darkened by funerals for two of my oldest teammates. I underestimated my enemy and was forced to pay a steep price. But out of respect for the dead, I promise that for the rest of the run, I will not make that same mistake again. Starting now. Okay, so did I get lazy and fight the Tatsugiri under the level cap for no good reason? Yes. And would a single extra level have ensured that we got the kill and prevented the needless death of another beloved teammate? Yes, but in my defense, Arvin did kinda shit the bed here. His Greedent immediately got hit by an accuracy drop from Muddy Water, proceeded to miss 2 body slams in a row, and then died. So really, it's Greedent's fault.
Bird fact number 16.
Squirrels too can go straight to hell. I don't even get me started on squirrel monkeys. Well, seemingly out of nowhere, I've racked up 5 deaths, and as a result, the type diversity of my flock is beginning to dwindle. We still have enough resources to easily handle Clavel, but it remains to be seen whether I'll be able to best the Paldean Elite Four and Champion. My team of 6 are Elvis, Minion, Bitey, Namelis, Carly, and Sink.
Bird fact number 17.
These are some damn good birds, so let's see if they've got what it takes. Rika's first, but she doesn't stand a chance. Elvis and Sink are able to take out most of her Pokemon with powerful water-type moves. The exceptions are Dugtrio, who is just walled by Minion, and Clodsire, whose water absorbability means that I need to use Carly's Paris Song to take the KO. Likewise, Poppy, despite an incredible name, also stands no chance. Elvis's Low Kick takes out Copperaja, Bitey's Thunderbolt takes out Corviknight, and a few flamethrowers from Carly take out Magnezone. Bronzong is a bit tricky since I want to be properly prepared for Poppy's hard-hitting ace, but by ensuring the KO with a U-turn from Namelis, I can pivot Elvis back in, who is then free to simply take the KO on the extremely heavy Tinkaton with a single low kick. I'm sure I've said it in previous videos, but moves like U-turn and Volt Switch are incredible for positioning and maintaining momentum. Larold isn't quite as cut and dry as his colleagues, since a few of his Pokemon can hit most of my team pretty hard. Elvis can learn Ice Spinner, so he gets the quick KO on Tropius, and our secondary fighting typing brings in Staraptor second. That lets me switch to Bitey, who sorta takes a Brave Bird before retaliating with a Volt Switch for the KO and allowing me to reposition Elvis back in. So all he's gotta do is Ice Spinner Altaria and Oricorio before Laramie is left with just his Terastalizing Flamigo. R.I.P. Hissy Face, you're missed every day. Elvis once again baits Brave Bird, granting a switch to Minion, who then subsequently baits Close Combat, which in turn grants a safe switch back to Elvis. Well, I don't know if this counts as a safe switch, but the point is that Elvis doesn't die to even a critical hit, and thanks to the defense drop, he's now free to take the KO with one final Ice Spinner. So that leaves Hassel as the final member of what has up until now been a pretty underwhelming Elite Four. I know it, you know it, Larry knows it, but Hassel is easily the hardest of the four, almost entirely due to the monstrous damage output from Baxcalibur's Dragon Terra Glaive Rush. No fairy type means that we've got a pretty big problem. Bitey goes toe-to-toe, or rather wing-to-wing, with Noivern, once again using a Volt Switch to take the KO and maintain offensive momentum. I switch in Elvis to bait out Dragalagi, who's bulky enough to survive an Ice Spinner and retaliate with a Thunderbolt, though we brunt the hit well enough thanks to our held Assault Vest. So another Ice Spinner gets the KO, and since Flapple comes out third, she too falls to a single hit from our Dancing Duck. Haxorus is Hassel's penultimate Pokemon, who can be comfortably walled by Minion. Her respectable bulk and resistance to Dragon-type attacks, along with recovery from leftovers and Roost, makes this a fairly straightforward matchup, though things get a little tricky when Haxorus gets a defense drop from Crunch. But that's nothing a simple switch to Elvis can't fix. With a U-turn, he gets the KO, letting me bring in Sync to somehow deal with Hassel's fearsome Baxcalibur. Unfortunately, this is a suicide mission for our brave little bathroom bird. All she can do is waste some PP with Protect and get off a bit of damage before certainly falling to a Glaive Rush. Or rather, that's what I thought until I realized that Hassel's Baxcalibur is absolutely faster. My heart drops as Glaive Rush comes out. But Sync actually survives on just 6 HP! Unfortunately, even with the double damage from Glaive Rush, Ice Beam doesn't get the KO in return. And with no safer option but to make a sacrifice, Sync's surprise survival is tragically short-lived. But her valiant effort does mean that Nemelis is free to finish off Baxcalibur with a Sucker Punch before he can do any more damage. So we've officially defeated the Elite Four, leaving just one last excruciatingly disappointing battle against Gita before being crowned a Paldean champ. Nemelis kills Espathra, Elvis kills Kingambit, Minion kills Go-Goat, Bitey kills Vuvuzela, Elvis kills Avalugg, and Minion kills Glamora. Yay, I'm the champion! That leaves the 4 final fights of the game, all of which are rather tricky. Okay, that's not true.
Bird fact number 18.
Much like myself, birds like to lie for fun. You really think that the bird flu is real? You ever seen a bird getting medication from a CVS? Of course not. They made it up. Arven and Penny are both pretty easy as long as you have solid answers into their Terastalizing Aces, which I do. So really, there's just 2 major fights remaining, but those can actually be kinda tough. The first is the ultimate showdown against my rival Nemona. Up until this point, it's been pretty easy to keep her in check, but now that she's got a full team of 6 fully evolved Pokemon, things get trickier. Her lead Lycanroc is faster than Elvis, so he gets off a Drill Run before we can take the KO with an Aqua Step. The guaranteed speed boost means that we'll outspeed Pawmot, but we still need to switch out on the incoming Double Shock. Tanking that is the job of Daniel, who's holding a Wakan Berry to barely survive a super effective hit. But since he does, he can now Encore Pawmot into Double Shock, which fails after its first use, since Double Shock drops the user's electric type. This also conveniently means that Pawmot is now a pure fighting type, so after roosting back to full HP, I take the KO with a super effective Flying Press. Goodra comes in third, so using U-turn for some chip damage, I bring in Pooleen on an Ice Beam. She's got a Covert Cloak to avoid freezes and enough bulk to survive a Dragon Pulse, so with 2 Ice Punches, Pooleen gets her first kill as a fully evolved Golduck. Nice job, bud. The Dunsparce is fourth, so I bring in Minion to wall his ass. I make sure to taunt our foe so that he doesn't set up with Coil, meaning that just a few Iron Heads is all it takes to win the matchup and bring Nemona down to her penultimate Pokemon, Orthworm. Her ace is Skeledirge, and because Torch Song is an unbelievably broken move when combined with a Fire Terra, I have to be really careful about how I position my team here, which, as I mentioned, is much easier to do with access to moves like U-Turn and Volt Switch. After Minion does enough chip damage to Orthworm, Bitey can take the KO with a Volt Switch to bring in Elvis for the starter showdown. We've taken some damage with Lycanroc, but our Assault Vest ensures that even a critical hit from Nemona's powerhouse won't be enough to kill us. Our Aqua Step also doesn't get the one-shot, but Elvis does indeed survive a Shadow Ball, meaning that with a second Aqua Step, the Croc goes down and victory is ours. In a surprise reveal, Arven's hot mom turns out to be an evil android hellbent on destroying the world. So, it's up to me and my birds to put a stop to all that loud nonsense. Alsada's got another full team of 6, but unlike Nemona, hers is filled to the brim with Paradox Pokémon, some of which are quite terrifying. Slitherwing, sadly, is not, since Daniel pops them with a quad-effective Aerial Ace, but that brings in Screamtail, who is also not terrifying. They're walled by Minion. After a few Iron Heads, I was hoping to be able to get the KO with a U-turn, but Minion does come up just short. That's fine though, since Bitey can just come in and outspeed for the KO with a Thunderbolt. But okay, now it's time for the scary Pokemon. Fluttermane takes the field third, and despite Bitey's phenomenal speed stat, the Ancient Beast is just a bit quicker. They're able to land a nasty power gem that Bitey barely survives. As a result, she can hit Fluttermane with an Eerie Impulse to drop their special attack. Time to go back to our old pretend critical hits don't exist strategy. I mean, it worked pretty well. Until it didn't. There's a compelling argument to sacrifice Bitey here, but I just don't have the heart to do it. So I hard switch to Elvis on another power gem. We've got a Wakan Berry to avoid big damage from Thunderbolt, though Fluttermane opts for Shadow Ball instead, which without a critical hit does basically nothing. Our response is an Aqua Step that nearly just straight up one-shots, and then the guaranteed speed boost ensures that we can take the KO with a second one on the following turn. Conveniently, this brings out Sandy Shocks next, so Aqua Step gets yet another... Okay, so Alsada is throwing the match. Well, you know what they say, never look a gift bird in the mouth. That's
Bird fact number 19.
by the way. With Sandy Shocks dead, Alsada brings in Oogaboongus, who almost falls to a single quad-effective U-turn. Since they don't though, Nemelis has to come in and eat a baby Giga Drain. She also eats a surprise critical hit Sucker Punch before taking the KO with another U-turn and bringing in Daniel for the final showdown against Sada's Ace Roaring Moon. But weighing in at a crisp 837.7 pounds, all we gotta do is rip a single low kick to get the KO, winning us not just the battle against Sada, but the entire run.
Bird fact number 20.
I am extremely grateful to all of you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But either way, stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.